Welcome back. Moody's Investors Service has affirmed the Ghanaian government's long-term issuer and senior unsecured bond ratings at B3 and changed the outlook to positive from stable. The global ratings agency also concurrently affirmed the rating of the bond enhanced by partial guarantee from the International Development Association at B1. Moody's says the decision reflects the rising confidence that Ghana's institutions and policy settings will foster improved macroeconomic and fiscal stability over the medium term due to the reforms implemented under the recent IMF reform program. Pressures and risks remain, but Moody's is confident that the government will manage those pressures in such a way as to sustain and enhance external and fiscal stability. Egypt has signed 2 deals with ExxonMobil for oil and gas exploration in the Mediterranean. The country's petroleum ministry says the deals involve a minimum investment of $332 million. This announcement comes about a month after ExxonMobil announced the acquisition of more than 1.7 million acres for exploration in the northeast Almeria block, with a minimum investment of $220 million, and the North Marakia block with a minimum investment of $112 million. The ExxonMobil agreements bring the total number of deals with investors to 82 since 2014, with a total minimum investment of about $16 billion for the drilling of 340 wells. And in Kenya, the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has cut its benchmark lending rate to 8.25% from 8.50%, citing the fact that the economy is operating below potential. The central bank says there is room for further accommodative monetary policy to support economic activity. The bank cut the benchmark rate in November by 50 basis points, and that was the first cut after holding it for 7 straight meetings. In November, the central bank governor, Patrick Njoroge, told journalists that the scrapping of an interest rate cap in place since 2016 had removed one of the concerns that the central bank had about cutting the lending rate. All right, now the global Naphtha market is expected to witness a significant growth between now and 2023. Of course, the rising consumption of naphtha as a feedstock in the petrochemical industry is the major driver of this market growth. And naphtha also finds application in blending of gasoline, industrial solvents, and cleaning fluids. Well, let's get a better understanding of this commodity. And I have Aisat Dawood, who is one of the research analysts with the financial derivatives company, just right here in the studio with me. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is this commodity called naphtha? What's it used for, and why is it so important?
Naphtha is an important commodity. Naphtha is a mineral spirit. Naphtha is a flammable liquid. It's an integral output from the refinery. Naphtha is used in a lot of vast array of goods. Your aerosol insecticide you spray in your house has naphtha in it. The plastics we use, common plastic we see on the road, is made from naphtha. Even petrol that we use to fuel our car contains naphtha. So naphtha is this important commodity that is gotten from crude oil distillation. It's used by a lot of end-user industries like the paint and coating industry. It's used in the agrochemical industry. It's used in the printing ink, even industrial cleaning agents. They use naphtha to make paraffins. In the painting industry, naphtha is a solvent that is used to make paint thinner, so it's spread easily on the wall. Naphtha is used in vast array of goods, like I said earlier. So this is an important commodity. For people who don't know what naphtha is, this is something we need to open our eye into. So naphtha is gotten from crude oil distillation. It's a byproduct. Most times, all we know we convert crude oil into is from crude oil to petrol to diesel. You don't know about the other important byproducts that you can get from crude oil, such as naphtha. So this is time for Nigeria to waken up and see that there are a lot of things we can use and maximize from crude oil distillation. And naphtha is one of them.
So you've talked a lot about naphtha and what it's used for. But in spite of this now, the total output of naphtha production in Nigeria as at 2016 was at 82,000 metric tons. Of course, this represents less than 1% of global output. Why is Nigeria's share of the output so small, and how can we increase this, seeing that it's a very essential commodity?
Okay, so NAFTA, our NAFTA production output in Nigeria is small because we have capacity utilization problem. It's so low, our capacity. Most of the refineries that are currently operating now are operating below capacity. We have poor maintenance culture. Our production output as of record 2016 was 82,000 metric tons, like you mentioned. 3 years back, that's 2013, our production output for NAFTA was 401,000 metric tons. That's a sharp decline, 79% decline in our output. So because people are not aware of this byproduct, important byproduct that comes from converting crude oil to petrol, to diesel. They just convert it to what they want to use it for. That's a popular petrol and diesel. They don't know of other things that we can use or derive from crude oil. So this problem is as a result of poor governance, like I mentioned earlier, and poor maintenance culture. What we can do, what I can encourage Nigeria to do, is to imbibe more of maintenance culture, allow our refineries to be operating at, power capacity with other world industrial important nation, big nations like, how the big giant nations, don't let me start mentioning names now, they're already thinking ahead. The future of crude oil, some people say, is no longer in fuel, is in chemicals. Chemicals like naphtha and the other byproducts you can get from crude oil. Other big nations are already planning ahead on how to maximize the petrochemical industry. So hopefully one day we'll get it right in Nigeria, and our way forward is to, if possible, fully deregularize the lower downstream industry oil sector. Look for how we can convert many of the, because we have some, no, let me say illegal, we have some refineries that are operating like modular refineries. So if we can convert many of these illegal refineries to, know the things they can get aside from petrol and diesel from converting crude oil, is a way forward for us to improve and, innovate a lot of things in Nigeria. A lot of sectors depend on naphtha, like I mentioned earlier. So,
all right, I know there's a lot to be said about naphtha, but we'll have to leave the conversation here at this point. Aisat Dawood, thanks for coming on the program. Aisat Dawood is one of the research analysts at the Financial Derivatives Company. And that's our program today. Thank you for watching. I am BC Adebayo.